Migration. It's the magic ingredient in Australia's ever-growing economic pudding.
The history of this country is of a migrant country built off the work of migrants, and that is going to be part of our future.
In an ordinary year, 250,000 permanent and temporary migrants account for about 65% of our population growth.
And that population growth means there's more people to house, more people to clothe. It generates economic growth on its own.
And as our population gets older and more of us draw pensions, skilled tax-paying migrants keep the tax system from buckling under.
We know that the ageing population is a problem. What we're really doing is importing, young people who can work and who are ready to work in critical skill areas.
Well, that's what we were doing. Since the border slam shut in March last year, skills shortages have been starting to bite.
The Regional Australia Institute has identified 66,000 workers needing to be filling positions at the moment in regional Australia in hospitality, law firms and accountancy practices, education, health.
The Treasurer's keen to reopen the floodgates ASAP. But in the meantime, the Coalition's banking on a $10 billion infrastructure spending bonanza, keeping the cash sloshing about till it's time to hopefully reopen in 2022. Skill shortages be damned.
We're absolutely banking on Australia's ability to make sure that we provide that workforce.
That's going to be a real challenge. There is no way in which Australia, as a small open economy, can go forward without reopening our borders.
Until we fix up the health issues associated with COVID, then there will remain restrictions, including on skilled migration, including on tourism, including on our international education sector.
So without that magic ingredient, how's Friday's pudding going to taste tomorrow night?
Well, former Immigration Department Deputy Secretary Abul Rizvi has a sweet tooth and he joins us now. Abul, the Deputy PM wants to fix the skills shortage with training and education. Wouldn't that be better than relying on migration?
All modern economies require a balance of the two. It just depends where the balance sits at different points in time. If we are about to enter a period of severe skill shortages, in the short term, there's not really a lot that the Deputy Prime Minister can do in terms of meeting that through skills training. Most major skills in Australia nowadays require 3, 4, 5, 6 years of training. If he wanted to rely on domestic skills training, he would have ensured we invested in this 4 or 5 years ago, not today.
On the budget more generally, there's fascinating analysis published last week, I think, that showed that the closed border had actually been stimulating our economy in a way we hadn't expected because we had something like 2 million more Australians here than otherwise would have been, and so things like car sales are just booming and a whole lot of money is being spent here that otherwise wouldn't. So is it fair to say that it's not all downside?
Oh, that's true. The closed borders has meant people are holidaying in Australia, which is helping our economy, undoubtedly. The question is whether that is sustainable in the long term, particularly as our booming economy is also being assisted by both probably the loosest fiscal and monetary policy we've ever had in our history.
Abul, we had a tortured weekend about when the borders might open or not open. The Prime Minister at one point saying they're going to stay shut forever. Then we got the Treasurer today.
That's a bit dramatic.
Well, the Treasurer today saying 2022 maybe. I mean, how long can we survive as an economy with the fences up that hard?
It does start to hurt after a while. If we go back to the 2019 budget, that forecast Australia's population growing at an extraordinary rate. When we add the effects of COVID, over a period of 4 years, it will mean our population will grow by about 1 to 1.5 million less over 4 years than it would have otherwise. That starts to hurt after a while, particularly in terms of the ageing of the population. Over the next 10 years, we are likely to see another 1 million people move into retirement, to a total of 5 million people in retirement by 2030. That will be within a population of less than 30 million, so 1 in 6 people will be retired. As we know, retirees pay very little tax, but they rely heavily on the aged care system, they rely heavily on the age pension. So we are looking over the next 10 years at some serious budgetary challenges.
Just before we let you go, Abul, where's the first place you'll travel to when we finally can?
A very good question. We'd planned to go to Scandinavia and visit some friends in Scandinavia, but I don't know how far that's away now.
You know what?
If you believe the Prime Minister and Steve Price, you are never going away.
None of us are going ever again.
Well, have you been to Scandinavia? It takes about 10 years to get there, so you should be all right.
Oh, that's true. That's probably why I've never been there.
Well, it's been great to chat to you tonight, Abul. Thanks so much for your time.
Thanks very much. Bye-bye.
It was all about infrastructure today, obviously. They were the leaks that the government gave to all the newspapers, and it was $3 billion in Sydney, $3 billion in Melbourne and $1.6 billion in Brisbane. I just wonder what we don't know there's going to be in the budget tomorrow night. I just got a sense, I may be completely wrong, that this budget's softening us up for an election. I think we might be looking at an election this year, not next year now.
But it's got to be an election-looking budget anay, because the economy needs money pumped into it.
Yep.
And so they're going to have to do that, even just for economic reasons.
Do you think we could see an election this year?
Well, have a look at what happened.
I don't think so, actually.
Queensland election, Anastasia Palaszczuk got back, Mark McGowan in WA got back, and in the Tasmanian Premier got back, all over the border closures. Scott Morrison goes to an election campaign talking about how he's kept us safe in the border shut.
Yeah, but he hasn't had the same bump in the polls that they did. I don't know. I reckon he might want to see it out.
There'd be a temptation.
But what would I know? Yeah,
For me.
Yeah.
Neither of us know.
We know nothing, so we may as well go to a break.
But we will tell you all tomorrow. We do know.
Yeah, see you soon. From expert opinions to in-depth analysis and reporting, the Project YouTube brings you the biggest stories from Australia and around the globe. Hit the subscribe button now for news delivered straight to your feed.